Hello, and welcome to our ranking bootcamp part 2.
Yep.
So a lot of you guys probably, caught part 1. Some of you caught probably the Q&A. And we had a lot of fun with that part 1. This second part, we're diving into the part 2 of the trifecta. So what I'm going to do is just get out of the way, basically. And I'm going to turn it over to Mark and Rob, who have all the wisdom to share with you guys. And if you guys have any questions along the way that are like confusions about something we're covering, we'll definitely take those up. But if it's something where it's like a question about ranking, we'll just kind of take those in the Q&A that we're going to do the beginning of next week. Okay. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mark and Rob.
Awesome. Okay, so I think we should just do a quick recap of what the trifecta is, what we like to call the trifecta. And just give you that kind of overview, and then we'll dive into part 2. So basically, if you're going to be doing PPC on Amazon, you want to make sure you have some things in place before you start doing PPC. And we call it the trifecta because it's things that you need to have in place before you can actually have a good result. So the first point is making sure your listing is top quality, not just on the presentation of it, the images, enhanced brand content or A+ content type stuff, but also the words that are inside of your listing, the title, the bullet points, the description, and also the back-end search terms that you have. You want to make sure those are smartly done in a way that's actually going to get you the best results for being found on Amazon. So we covered that in detail on part 1 of how do you find the competitors to do that analysis against. So you can actually find all those keywords and build them into your listing. And that can definitely be a time-consuming process. It's definitely a process that you want to spend some time doing and make sure you do correctly. And there was lots of little nuances that we covered in part 1, as well as the Q&A after. So part 2 is basically taking that data, and once you have that inside of your listing, you're going to be putting it into a keyword tracker, some kind of keyword tracker system, and seeing where you're ranking on those. And there's a bunch of different details that you're going to need to think with when analyzing that, and that's what we're going to cover today. And the third point is taking that stuff and smartly using it in your advertising to do different ranking campaigns or adjust your advertising accordingly based off of those 2 prior points. So I think the first thing that I wanted to jump into is, I think I'm sharing my screen. Is that showing up or no?
1 second, just let me switch over to it. Okay, good.
Okay,
I can
perfect.
see your screen now.
So this was the analysis that we did in part 1, where we took a bunch of different competitors and looked through all the keywords and made sure that they actually made sense to our product that we were going to optimize. And so I took all of this over the weekend and updated my listing for this. So I just want to show you those results first, and then we'll go into the keyword tracker aspect of it. So here's how my existing listing looked. These are the keywords that I had in here. This was last optimized probably a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. So the keywords that are relevant now could have changed, and the importance of them or how much search volume they have could have changed over time. I think we've seen that happen with multiple different clients.
With a lot of clients. And also it's good sometimes you want to purposely change a title if you want to emphasize a keyword. We'll get into some of those things later on and in more advanced techniques. But just as part of our recall also when you are covering the full trifecta is that obviously you've done your keyword research first in order to write your title and create everything that Mark was just talking about. And remember that as you're doing this, those of you that are going to follow along and those of you that are going to do this with us on maybe one of your campaigns, one of your own titles, that in the list of keywords, there's going to be 2 tacks you're going to take, 2 basic buckets of keywords. They're the keywords that we're using now, which are the really good SFR keywords, the keywords that Mark found that make the title better. These keywords are, you're going to optimize the site for these keywords. However, we're going to go into another layer of when we decide, but which keywords do you choose for pay-per-click? Which do you start with and how do you structure that? but you want to hold off. So the list that you have should be a very extensive list that we're going to show you and walk through how that gets put into the tracker. So you could be tracking all of the keywords, some that you'll use now for the listing and some that we're going to come back to. So hopefully I just want to make sure that that point is clear, that critical step, if anybody has questions, make notes, write it down. And after this session, we go to the Q&A, make sure that you totally have the keyword analysis down pat, because that is going to be used multiple times in certain ways. And you want to make sure that you've chosen the right competitors, that you got the right keywords, and and now we're getting them into the tracker. This is critical. I want to just make sure that everybody's up with us up at this point.
Awesome. And that's a perfect point. So here you can see the earlier listing. Here you can see if we actually have it in our listing or not. So you can see where we have missing this one here, missing these ones here. So we're missing a bunch of different keywords that are now very relevant, but could be built into our listing. So what I did is I spent a lot of time over the weekend, probably a good 2-3 hours, working all these keywords into my listing. And I'm going to show you what the result is after I did that, which is here. So now you can see over here on the total column, I have each and every keyword in my listing somewhere. And I changed my title because over here previously, this was the main keyword that I wanted to go after: unbreakable cocktail drinking glasses. That no longer is as, it's not as popular, or doesn't have enough search volume as the keywords that I saw now. So here you can see I changed my title: plastic tumblers, cocktail whiskey glasses, unbreakable Triton drinking glasses, dishwasher safe, BPA free, 12 ounces, 12-ounce cup set of 4 by Cruvina. So I then took any and all keywords and I just gradually built them into my bullet somewhere or my description. I also added in, I didn't have any keywords in my subject matter. So that's a big flunk on my part from earlier, but I took that opportunity to put those in here and then added anything else that I saw as relevant into my search terms. So that is now I have, if you look at these, the rankings on these keywords, you can see I have all the way down to about 100,000, all in my, or most part, all in my listing. And there's other keywords that are longer tails or whatnot that we'll look at in Keyword Tracker. So that's not any comments on that,
The
Rob?
only thing that you said, I'm not sure if it really sunk in with everybody, is the amount of hours that you put into this. Guys, this is critical. This is the foundation. It's like building a house. This is a fully optimized listing. And if it's not fully optimized, you're not going to get the impressions from Amazon. You're not going to play as well in the pay-per-click sandbox. You're not going to rank as well. This is a critical point. So like Mark said, he spent 2-3 hours on this. If you guys spend 3-4 hours on this, don't fear that. Don't worry about that, especially if you're not used to as fluid as working with it as maybe Mark would be with these tools, because this is the basis of your listing that's going to drive the sales and make you money. And it's a critical part. Don't ever belittle the importance of this and worry about spending a few hours doing it.
Absolutely.
It sounds crazy, but by the way, I say that because we talk to sellers and they'll say, well, I did. And I'll ask, how long have you spent on it? And they'll say, well, I spent like 20 minutes, half hour, and I really optimized everything. And we know, like, no, you couldn't have done it that fast.
Absolutely true. It really takes a lot of thinking, and obviously you want to make sure it all makes sense when someone reads it, and you want to make sure you have the best ones in the appropriate spots in here. So yeah, definitely take the time to do that. So that's that. Now let's jump into the next step where we're going to take all this data and put it into Keyword Tracker. So the first thing I want to do is my product is actually in here somewhere. I think it might be this one here, but I'm going to take this competitor product that we were looking at, and I'm just going to plop it into Keyword Tracker so you can see the difference. So I'm just going to add an ASIN, put it here. I'll just put, I think it was Bravario. And I'm going to take all these keywords and I'm going to put them in here. So the easiest way to do that is from Keyword Scout. You can just copy it to the clipboard. So I'll do that. And I'll paste them here. So now I have all those keywords in here. and that will appear. And then we'll be able to look at our existing product to see how that goes. So,
and a quick note, those of you that may not have MBS tools, the basic concept is you're scooping out all of the keywords for the competitor. You're taking all of those keywords from the reverse ASINs. And after you've merged and purged them, you have a master list of keywords. You're just dumping, cutting and pasting and dropping them in to the appropriate tracker that you may be using. So you can start tracking every one of those keywords.
Yep. Looks like I actually already did this earlier. So it saw that I had it and so it already did it. So I did put these in here about a week ago, probably the day after our first webinar. So that's good. So we can see now this is the competitor product with all those keywords, and we can see where they're ranking. So that's how you do it. You just add an ASIN, throw in all the keywords, and let it start tracking them, and it'll show you where they're at. To give you just a quick 2-second overview of this tool here, the keyword tracker tool, so you can kind of think with how to use it. You simply have adding ASINs here. This is where your ASINs will appear. And here is where all your search terms are that you're tracking. Here is the search frequency rank. So you know the lower the rank, the better, the higher search volume it has. And here's where you're actually going to see each day. So this is yesterday, and then the day before. And then what you have down here at the bottom is what I like to do, and what the default is page 1, page 2, page 3. Most categories have 48 products in on the first page. If yours is different, some categories have like 16 or some other odd amounts, then you can obviously change that simply by going in here and changing that. But here you can see at a glance, anything that's green is going to be on page 1, yellow is page 2, orange is page 3. So we can obviously see here, we're blipping up onto page 3 on this one, otherwise page 4 or 5 or whatever that is. You can just visually kind of see at a glance where this product is showing up for these keywords. And again, this is also a competitor, right? So I'm tracking where he is showing up. And so I can see how he's doing compared to how I'm doing. So let's go look at my product itself. This one here, the cocktail glasses. So I made the updates to my listing on the 27th. So that was just 2 days ago. And so we're going to be able to see the changes here, but there are keywords that are in my analysis that are not in here. As an example, plastic tumblers was showing up as the kind of the key word that I want to go after. And in my tracker, I didn't even have it. So it wasn't even a word to go after before, I believe. Let's change this by alphabetically. And let's go down to plastic tumblers. Plastic tumblers, not even in here, see? So that's a key point there, is we want to now add whatever search terms we don't already have, we want to add them in here. So again, I'm just going to go over here, copy to the clipboard all these keywords. I'll go to this product. I'm going to edit these keywords that are in here. And pardon me if I'm going a little fast. Trying not to. And I'll just go down to the bottom here, and it will find any dupes that we already have, duplicates. Just paste them all in there, and I'm going to save it. So now,
obviously, that obviously where you just cut and paste from was not from a particular ASIN, which it looked like it may have been, but it was the master list.
It was the master list, yeah. So it's the analysis that we did against these 10 ASINs. Exactly right. So this will take a day to update. So in the morning, we'll have all of these ones that I didn't have already being tracked will now show me the correct search frequency rank and where I rank on them. So that'll be good. We can actually analyze that on our third call before we do the third part of the trifecta. So that's the key point. But let's dive now into how we analyze keyword tracker and what we're going to be doing, what we're going to be looking at in preparation for our campaigns. Rob, what would you say is the first kind of area you'd look into?
Well, one of the things that jumps out and that you did in approaching when you first designed this is if you scroll down and you look at the SFRs that are pretty high, where you see a lot of the greens, you're dominating the high SFRs. So this is the tactic from the PPC point of view. not from the listing point of view. So if you go down and you find the higher SFRs, where all of the greens are here, what you have here, this is what you want to achieve, because what you're doing is these are easier to rank. These keywords that are under 1 million, and these are going from 900,000 down to, let's say, 260. This cluster, which maybe, I don't know how many there, maybe 15
20, 30,
keywords,
yeah.
15, 20 keywords.
Yeah.
Those keywords, if you rank keywords with very high SFRs, they're lower competition. So if you scoop out the lower competition keywords and make sure that the root, the parts and pieces of the phrases have relevant words that are very strong. Let's say that a keyword that has an excellent SFR further up the list, very, very low SFR, very competitive, but an excellent keyword. Let's say that produces 20, 30, 40 sales in a month's time. Well, you may find a keyword that's less competitive that produces 5 sales, let's say, in a month's time, and 10 of those is going to equal 50. So the cost, though, to rank those is way lower than trying to rank the #1 keyword in the category. And if you rank enough of the lower competitive keywords and the lower competitive mid-tail and long-tail keywords, you will end up owning the rank for the short and competitive keywords. So it's a strategy of go after the low-hanging fruit, go after the ones that are easy to achieve, that are less expensive to rank, and you can rank many of them quickly and work your way up the chain until, in this case, it's counterintuitive, but the lower the SFR, you're working down the chain, but up the chain as far as the highest quality of keywords. So now what we want to look at is designing the actual pay-per-click. So these are the ones that you'd use for that, and in designing the rest of the campaigns as we go forward.
Awesome. Yeah, and a key point on the search frequency rank, it is probably purposely made confusing by Amazon. It's a popularity. So how much it ranks. #1 is going to be the best. That means it's the most popular, has the highest search volume. So you kind of have to flip your thinking on that.
And as an example, by the way, if you go back to your title for a second, which is critical, something that I do want to point out. If you look here, the first word is plastic. Now, jump now back over to the tracker. If you go to the tracker, look what happened to plastic wine glasses. It is an excellent SFR, and look what it was ranking. And now that it's the first word in the title, look where it is today.
Yep. And what's interesting too is that this is not a wine product. So I didn't have plastic tumblers in my search thing here, and now I do. But plastic wine glasses, I have plastic tumblers and then glasses here, right? So plastic glasses. Just by this little change, this keyword here, that it's not a wine product necessarily, but people can use it for wine. They probably wouldn't if they're a wine, if they're experienced with wine. But nonetheless, you can see that immediately. It was kind of consistently on page 2. It had a little dip, and then boosh, popped up onto page 1.
Same thing with cocktail. If you look at the position of the word cocktail in the title, if you jump back over to the title, since the title's been rearranged, it's the 3rd word. It's in a powerful position. And the way the search engine sees this is the search engine, if you put words out of sequence, now we did cover this in the first session, the phrase can have words in between all the various words. And that was a question that was brought up also.
Yep.
And it will still pick it up. So for instance, plastic glasses, well, there's a lot of words between the words plastic and glasses, right? But the search engine sees plastic glasses because it's in the right sequence, the right order. So plastic glasses is now ranking. And look at cocktail glasses. Go back to the title. Go back to the tracker and look at cocktail glasses. This was not ranking on page 1. And now it is, because after the analysis, we rearranged the title.
Yep.
And you immediately have results. Now, over time, you'll see more and more of the words in the title move in that position. And by the way, this is without building strategies in pay-per-click or 100% rebates or giveaways or anything like that. Just proper optimization, and we're already ranking better, which I guarantee you within a week, sales will be up.
Right.
If they're not already.
Right. Exactly right. So cool. I think Do we have any questions that have been coming in? I know we've been barreling along, but
we had one, but I was trying to get clarification on what part she's talking about. It was something along the lines of, did you duplicate the keywords in various areas or just in one area across all just once across all areas?
Okay, yeah, good question.
Okay,
So let's
good.
go back to the listing part. So I'm not personally, I'm not one for trying to duplicate keywords many times in my listings. It definitely doesn't hurt to do that, but overstuffing it with keywords didn't make sense to me. My thought process is, if I have okay, all products are different, right? But in this case, I have glasses as a very common word, right? With all these phrases, right? Drinking glasses, whiskey glasses, cocktail glasses, water glasses, glasses set, right? It just goes on with that glasses. So what I tried to do is, instead of just repeating a bunch of the same ones, these top best ones, I go, okay, now that I've got them in my title or my bullets where I want them, where I think that they're best fitted, let me go and find instances in here where I say glasses and I already have, let's say I wanted to add whiskey glasses, right? If I had glasses in here and I had whiskey glasses already somewhere down here, but I didn't want to, sorry, let me rephrase that. Let's say I don't have whiskey glasses in my listing right now and I want to add it in, but I do have bourbon glasses, let's say, in my listing several times. I would then take the second instance of bourbon glasses and use that for whiskey glasses. So that way I can build in as many of these as possible. So you can see, some of these I have 3 or 2 instances of it in my listing somewhere, but I've worked really to make it so that I can get every single one of these top 100. Looks like I missed one here, glass cup set, which makes sense. It's not glass, so I left that out. And this one here, glass drinking glasses. Again, it's not glass, so I left that out. And Scotch glasses, looks like I missed that. But for the most part, I wanted to get as many of these as I could into the listing. So I have that SEO. I have that, Amazon sees that I'm going to be relevant for that. And an interesting thing is, like, when I did that, I saw this little blip down here. Where is it? Just saw it.
While you're looking for that, let me clarify that. The concept is, you want your most powerful phrases, starting with phrases. The phrase is the operative word in the title. So if you have a medium tail, it's 4 or 5 words, put that in your title if it's a great phrase, and then build around it. So you want to try to get the most powerful keywords and phrases into the title. After that, you do not need to repeat it. So if you had whiskey glasses in the title, as it is, you don't have to repeat that. However, you don't have to avoid it either.
Right.
So you want to have natural copy. So we're not keyword stuffing. And as Mark was showing, if you go back to the breakdown there. So whiskey glasses, bourbon glasses, and the various times that the word glasses is repeated, it's kind of weird if you didn't say glasses, because you'd be saying whiskey what? I mean, you don't want to imply that it's alcohol, that it's whiskey. No, it's whiskey glasses. So you have to say the word glasses, but don't be afraid, because I know when there's hard set rules that people have said, it's kind of comical. People say, oh my God, I can't repeat the word glasses. Well, of course you can. So if it's natural, repeat the word and don't worry about repeating it. However, you would not have to repeat the word whiskey glasses if it was in the title. Now, sometimes what you may do is change it from singular to plural. So if the most powerful phrase or midtail or word that you're putting in the title is plural, like whiskey glasses, if you could use it somehow and say whiskey glass, that also helps, because then you're getting both singular and plural. Yep. So hopefully that clears it up. So yes, the title is the most powerful. Search terms in the back are the most powerful. If your words are there, you do not have to repeat them, but you don't have to worry about repeating them if it's natural in the copy.
Right.
Question for you guys. We have a couple questions in here. Do we want to take them now, or do we want to do a Q&A after? Some of these are obviously pretty relevant to what we're talking about right
Sure, I would say if they're very relevant, we'll do a Q&A afterwards, and we'll see if there's anything further.
And that'll be also questions where people think, okay, but what do I do with this instance? Right. Yeah. Okay. So we've got Mark asking, Do hyphens affect, help, or hurt keywords or phrases?
That is a good question. From what I understand right now, hyphens do not hurt. I know people that still do them. I believe I might have had them in my previous listing. I think when I updated my listing, I don't use hyphens anymore. I do have a little hyphen there between BPA free, but some people will use them to kind of help communicate the concept or have it, pop out a little bit more. My preference is I try to stick with commas, try to stick with something that reads smooth. I do want people to see what it is that the keywords that are in there, but I'm also mainly doing it for that SEO point, making sure that the keywords are in there. And then of course the secondary point is I want the person to be able to read it and have it make sense. So breaking it up, yeah, I don't think it's going to hurt. I haven't heard anything about that being detrimental. I know some people were doing like, what are these called? These little line.
Oh yeah, what is that?
pipes.
Vertical pipes. Okay.
Yeah, I also agree. I don't think I think commas are great. It's not going to hurt, and the hyphen I don't think is going to hurt it. But if a comma is more natural in the reading, then I would use commas, and I would stay with good grammar. Now, the one punctuation that's very powerful is a colon. When you have the colon, as we do here, the canonical URL, the tagging in the URL is going to be the 5 words to the left of the colon. So if you count back, from glasses, whiskey, cocktail, tumblers, that's 4, and you have plastic, that this is going to put those words into your URL. And it should go to put a good piece of it in the actual tagging and filtering that Amazon is using. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize. And you sometimes can be guided that you may alter the title a little to make that purposely have what you want in there in the tagging.
Exactly. And that's a key point. So when your product gets big enough, and Amazon goes, oh, this is a great product, and they actually start helping to promote your product. They give your product kind of its own Google SEO, where Amazon is taking your product and listing it on Google when people search for it. That's where it comes into some awesome play, where this colon here, like he was saying, the previous 5 words from it, that's what Google is checking. So that's how Google does their SEO. They also, SEO a lot of other points, but those first 5 words are the primary words that are going to be SEO'd for you on Google. So that's a very key point that a lot of people don't think with.
We do have one other question here. So in the PPC campaign, you build it with the lower long tail keywords.
So yeah, we're going to want to go into that in detail in the third point of trifecta. But yes, the main, when you're starting off, there's a whole bunch of scenarios, right? Every product is in its own life cycle, meaning it's either brand new, it's been going for a while, it's either good, or bad on ACOS and ranking, or you need to revive a product. So there's different stages that a product can be in. When you're starting off, yeah, like Rob was saying, you want to go after those long tail keywords that have lower, it's kind of funny, it has a higher SFR, lower ranking, lower volume.
But let's be clear about that. I'm not sure how or why they're asking the question, in what regard, but just so we don't misguide someone, you're going to use your auto manual with phrase, broad, and exact matching, and you're going to, of course, include your top 10 best keywords, and you want to start building your pay-per-click with your best keywords. However, in the strategic ranking, in the so to speak, our secret weapon, when you build these campaigns for ranking, and you're going to go after keywords where you're going to spend a good amount of money and maybe raise your bids to aggressively drive words to the first page, that's separate. That's what we're talking about. That is, in those campaigns, you want to start with the least competitive keywords. And as you rank those, the keywords in your general campaigns will do better.
Right.
So we're not saying to ignore when you build your exact match phrase, when you're building out your manual campaigns, of course you want your best keywords in there, But let's say those keywords, especially on a new product, they're not going to be ranking out of the box on page one.
Right.
So yes, you want them in there and you want to nurture and over time turn those dials so you could get them to perform well on your bidding strategies. However, in your ranking strategy, the campaign's designed, which we'll get into later, the campaign's designed to drive rank. Those are starting with the least competitive, higher SFR, as long as they're relevant keywords.
Yep. And a key point on that, which is part of the second point of the trifecta, is you can't just say, okay, I know that these are the higher numbers and thus lower search volume, and take these and just go after them. You have to know where you rank on them, right? So as an example, this one here, plastic margarita glasses reusable. I wouldn't just take that and go after it because I'm nowheresville. I was on page 4 or 5, and now I'm not even ranking for it. I'm on page 25 or something. It doesn't make sense to push on that because I'm not relevant. I'm not ranking for it. And that's where this is the analysis step, where you're deciding what keywords you want to go after aggressively. And the best way to do that, to push yourselves up the rank, yeah, you're going to create ads. You're going to do all the normal stuff to get your product being shown for all the relevant keywords. But if you're going after this top one up here, let's say plastic tumblers, you could be on page 25 and be pushing super aggressively on it and just have a bunch of money spent without any actual ranking increased or anything, and have very bad conversions. Whereas if you actually show up, let's say I'm on, page 2 or page 3 for a keyword. Okay, now Amazon sees that you're relevant for that keyword. And there's something that Amazon is thinking with that it goes, oh, this product makes sense to go with that keyword. So if someone searches for that keyword and they have an ad going for it, and we show them that ad, they're probably going to buy it. So your cost per click is going to be lower for keywords that you already are ranking for. Whereas if you're not ranking for something and you push aggressively on that, your cost per click is going to be a lot higher. So that's where the smart aspect of it comes in, where you want to not just, if you have millions of dollars, just throw down on advertising. Okay, fine. You can do that. You can just pound the top keywords. But that's generally not the case for most sellers. And you want to do it in a very smart manner where you can go, what keywords am I actually showing up for that I actually have some kind of ranking on? Pick the best one that you're ranking on that makes sense to your product, and then aggressively go after that. So that's the smart analytical way to go about it.
And one caveat on that, what Mark's assuming and what he's referring to is when you look at your grid and you've loaded your keywords and you've got the results, and you could look at a tracker, and in this case, you see the orange and you see the different shade of green. These are not on page 1, but they have tracking. You could see that they're on page 2 or 3, and you could see that there's already some acceptance by Amazon. Amazon's seeing them, and you're already in the game, so to speak. However, let's assume, which is the one caveat to all of this, let's assume you don't have that. Let's assume that they're all gray and you're not on page, you're not in the top 5 pages at all, and your product is that new. Well, then you have no choice. What Mark's referring to, of course, is go after the low-hanging fruit when you have it. If there is no low-hanging fruit, then yes, you want to go after the least competitive keywords, and they may all be in the gray, and you may have no choice but to start pounding away to get them to move to page 4, 3, 4, 5, etc., and eventually page 1. So this guy over here is probably on page 6 or 7.
Right.
If they were all on 6 or 7, yeah, then you have no choice. And the philosophy would still be go after the least competitive based on the higher SFRs, then starting with a low SFR if they're all in the gray.
Right. Perfect. Okay.
We have a couple other questions.
Okay.
So, we're going to have like a little mini debate here on hyphen. So, because we've got 2 different schools of thought on this. One seems like a little bit more on Amazon. My understanding, this is Howard. My understanding is that for tagging purposes, a hyphen will allow, my goodness, we have like a thunderstorm outside, and we have someone who's closing a garage outside. So we're going to try and ignore that. Howard, my understanding is that for tagging purposes, a hyphen will allow two hyphened words to be tagged as one word. Okay. So one side. Second side is Kashif is mentioning we should not use hyphens or slashes as a block search engine. So I guess it's kind of like, is there a pro-con trade-off?
Well, what Mark pointed out with BPA free, when you have BPA, no space, hyphen, no space free, yes, Howard's right. It's going to connect it, but that's also proper English. That's proper language and grammar too. When you're hyphenating words like BPA free, becomes basically, it sees that as a word. What the other person is referring to is if you had BPA space hyphen space free, you're not connecting the word, then yes, those are two different scenarios, which you have right here.
Right. So I just went and did a little quick search. If you want to share the screen again. So here you can see this seller, Deco Store. They have this hyphen in use where they're separating out concepts and they're trying to make it pop out. I've heard in the past that that was acceptable. I know that Amazon has been changing things on what is acceptable inside of the listing. You know, as an example, in the bullet points, if you have all caps and emojis, those are kind of a big no-no now, and Amazon's doing, you know, actively doing things to suppress your listing in some way. So there's probably other aspects related to that. So I don't know personally for 1,000% certain that this is actually going to be detrimental to your listing.
But we wouldn't advise.
But
and I think the two questions, Curtis, just to how it is correct, but that is not what's happening here. Right. They're not saying Titan hyphen shadowproof and making it one word, because they did Titan space hyphen space.
Right.
So it's not how it is correct. And
right.
also it's
when
proper,
used grammatically, it's a different
grammatically
story.
Also,
sure.
Even in prose, you're writing, you would say BPA hyphen free, but there are no spaces. So they're both correct. Right. In this case, they're not two different things.
Right.
Okay, awesome. And then one other question here. Could the 100,000 SFR mark change according to the popularity of the category? Could it be 80 for some products and 120 for others?
Interesting.
Not sure. When you say could the
just the 100,000 mark, kind of the 100,000 kind of assumed mark of that's where you want to have your best keywords. Could that be 120 for some categories or 80 for other categories?
Well, even more dramatic. I have some niches that we're working on with clients where we were able to do deeper analysis with the sales and search volume, and 400,000 was actually producing lower sales, but several a month. So let's say you have 400,000, and for argument's sake, you had, 10 of those. Well, those are very easy to rank for. Well, if they're producing 4 or 5 sales a month and you have 10 of them, all of a sudden there's 50 sales. So that just adds to the argument that yes, going after low competition keywords, long tail, is definitely valuable if the words in that long tail are the root and are those critical keywords that we're looking for. And you do want to get a feel for search volume and also sales if possible. I know not to get too over technical, but if you go into brand analytics and if you dig deep, there are some analyses where you could see the percent contribution of a keyword. So you could tell by its contribution, by the amount of how many sales per month. And those are some things you still want to look at.
Yep. And a key point on that too is that there's some products that are super niche-y, I guess is the word, where you have a particular thing that handles a particular aspect of a general field. So I've seen products where the most relevant keywords are above 100,000. So that the search frequency rate is higher than 100,000. They just don't have anything that's lower than 100,000. So in that particular case, it's obviously not as broadly searched product, but it's its own niche. So there could be a lot of people, you could be getting a lot of sales in that area, but you just don't have search terms that are 20 or 30,000, right? So the thought process still applies where you want to go after the best. So in this case, we found, 20, 30 keywords that were between, I think it was 150 and 400,000. you just have to see what keywords are showing up. And this stuff changes over time, as we saw, with my old listing. I had completely different keywords in my title, was doing okay with it. But I see now that, okay, I'm going to change it. So, yeah, it's a point to definitely look at, every 6 months or so. Look at your listing, see if it needs to be updated. If you're doing ranking campaigns, you got obviously can change things in your title to go after certain keywords. But just look at that point of what keywords are showing up after you've done the analysis of the top competitors in that particular area, and see, does it make sense to nothing below 100,000 actually makes sense to your product. Okay, don't go after them. Don't put them in your listing, obviously, right? And then find the top 20 or 30 or 40 keywords that actually do make sense, and whatever the lowest SFR is that you can get those keywords.
One of the things, Curtis, for all those that have asked questions already, can they give us feedback? Did we cover, and do they feel like, yeah, we addressed it, so they don't leave without knowing the answers?
For sure. So everyone, just if we've handled a question, just make sure to text in here if you have any further questions on that. Otherwise, we'll just carry on.
Or we just say yes or thumbs up.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That,
just give us some indication. Oh, messages are coming in.
I don't want to leave anybody hanging, especially because the concept of these series is that they could work along with us. And if they're building their own campaigns, I don't want them leaving without knowing the answer to those questions.
Howard saying yes. Lois is saying yes. You've handled it quite well. Yes, Kashif. So looks like we're doing pretty good.
Okay.
I have one more, and okay, so here's this one. This one is Roberta. She's saying, so her listings are written in Italian. Now I'm kind of gonna have to piece together a couple messages here. And she is using a lot of conjunctions so it easily flows. But for instance, she's seeing that there's a lot of searches for face mask, women, men, where in her listing, her title, she's obviously writing face mask for women and men. She's just wants to make sure, will Amazon consider it as kind of like one and the same?
Yeah, this goes back to the concept of a phrase that you put in the title, and then you want to add another phrase. You can't just keep adding phrase after phrase. There's no room. And you're going to also repeat a lot of words. So when you merge phrases together, as long as the words are in the right sequence, Amazon does see it. So in the case of a phrase, Amazon's going to see all the words in the middle and ignore them, and it's going to see the right words that complete the phrase. So in this case, conjunctions and articles and any other words that are used to bridge and create phrases, it's going to see all the main keywords, and it's going to find them. Now, the perfect phrase is always the best, but you don't have to add all the conjunctions and all the other words. If you have the right words in the title and or the back end or bullets, Amazon is going to see them so long as they're in the right sequence. So it sounds a little bit silly, but we all know, because our brains, different than AI, different than robotics, our brain sees women, men, men, women. We get the point. The search engine doesn't. And therefore, yes, if the phrase is women and then men, you need to have it in that order. If you switch it to men and women, it's not the same. So I want to be clear about that. The order of the words in the phrase is more critical than worrying about an and a.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. There's one other here, and I think we've got a pretty quick answer on this one. Oh, no. Okay, is it important to use Amazon specific keyword tools to get the most relevant keywords? I think they mean as opposed to using the Google keyword tool or something.
So yeah, so there is different schools of thought on that. For a listing, it makes sense to go with Amazon specific words. You can go and do a huge Google, AdWords analytics, pulling all the words that make sense on Google and other search engines or whatever, and those are going to be those can be very smart long tail keywords to go after when you're doing your advertising. But when you optimize your listing, you want to make sure you have the most relevant search terms that Amazon is classifying as the most relevant search terms or highest search volume search terms.
One caveat on that.
Sorry, guys, one thing. I was muted when I said that, so I just want to communicate? I know they heard it on
Okay.
Mike's way over there, but so the question was, is it important to use Amazon specific keyword tools to get the most relevant keywords? So
Yeah,
sorry,
and one
continue.
caveat on that, because I'm not sure the nature of the question. Are they referring to Amazon keyword tools like brand analytics versus MBS or any other competitor or players that are out there versus Google's, which has Google keyword and AdWord analyzers of keywords, like the Google keyword tool. If you're referring to Google versus Amazon, of course, you want to stay within the Amazon sandbox. And like Mark said, you want to stay with Amazon. If they're referring to, should I be using brand analytics and Amazon's tool versus any of our software or others in the field, those that are good, ourselves and competitors, are extracting our knowledge and data from Amazon. So it's coming from the horse's mouth. Yep. So if you're using MBS and you're looking at our SFR, we're not making this up or inserting the SFRs or the ranking. It is coming directly through our development license with Amazon. So it is coming from Amazon, if that's what she meant. And if she means referring to Amazon versus Google, then yes, stay with Amazon.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. How much, so I've got a couple more questions here, but again, I know this is why we originally separated Q&A from the main body.
So do one or two. And then
we're going to take two more here, and then we will dive into, the rest of our plan here. Good. Okay. So then how do you decide which keywords go in the back end and subject matter, and should those appear in the back end and not on the main page areas? So kind of like differentiating when to use where.
Yeah, that's a great question. So,
you want to kind of think through the process of like how you actually did it and why you made the decisions you made.
Exactly. So in this case, so I have, from my experience over the years, what I kind of figure to be the best way to go about this. And I know there's probably different schools of thoughts, but from training with Amazing Selling Machine and the different other people that I've followed over the years, what I try to think with is, first, I want to make sure that I get the most important stuff in the title. And once I've gotten the best ones in there that make sense, I'll then look at the search term area and the bullet area. The search term area has a higher SEO clout or power, right? But I don't want to be taking, so as an example, whiskey glasses, bourbon glass, plastic drinking glasses. I have a lot of glasses in here, right? So I don't want to be taking glasses as with all the different variation phrases that there are, and putting them into my search terms area, because I'm going to be using up this 250 characters with a lot of repeats of glasses. So what I tend to do is I try to take smaller keywords that actually have high search volume and putting them down here, or areas that I want to go into. So in this case, camping, barbecue, RV, hostess. So different things that I want to show up for. That's kind of what I've decided to do down here. That might not be the best thing, but in my case, I felt like this was. And then on subject matter, after I've gotten in, all the keywords that I felt were best for the bullet points, I then go, okay, good. What keywords am I missing? And when I'm looking at subject matter, I try to find search terms that are subjects. So in this case, apartment essentials, that could be a subject, whereas whiskey glass set is not necessarily a subject, right? It's a thing. Bourbon gifts for men, that could be a subject. Plastic cups reusable could be a subject. Cups for kitchen subject. New home essentials. So that's kind of what I think with on subject matter. I don't think Amazon's going to necessarily ding you for putting just a wine glasses in there on the subject matter, but I try to use that just for my own kind of what I think is most relevant. I'll put them in there, and those are usually not as important keywords as what I've been putting into, of course, my title and bullets and search terms.
Yeah, one of the things that I like to do is in subject, since we just covered it quickly, I like to think the way Amazon does. So for subject matter, I look at the node and the link for where your product is, the category. So if you're in home and garden, well, that's the subject that Amazon thinks is powerful enough to actually name a category after it. So subject matter, if your product is a home and garden or kitchen item, I'd put it in the category of whatever Amazon calls it in its category, because that is its subject. And then you could add the others as Mark has said. But subject matter, think of it as being broader hierarchy, more at the top of the tier as the broad category of where a product is. And I would include in one of those, before going too deep, I would include the category that the product's in.
Smart.
You
Very
used
smart.
a word there also that I'm sure many know, but some don't, which is node.
The node is the chain of words that make up the category. When you look up something for Amazon and you see that it's in home goods or home and garden, and if you go to the listing on any page where you have the data under product information, it will actually show you the ranking, the BSR that everybody talks about, your ranking BSR in your category. That's the node. So it's kitchen and dining, and then / something else, / something else. That's the category and the node.
Yeah. So you can see here, this one's in kitchen and dining, and then it's also 103 in old fashioned glasses. So that's the lower level category that it's in, but the top level category is kitchen and dining.
And I would actually put those in, I would put in those categories because Amazon's calling this old fashioned glasses and it's in kitchen and dining. So I would list kitchen and dining in my subject.
Yeah. And this one I think is a different product, but yeah, this is someone else's product, but
yeah,
nonetheless.
but you know, by example.
Yep. We can check this one here. Let's just see what it has. Yeah, old fashioned glasses, number 78. So there you go. Good. That's a smart little tip.
There you go. Okay, so then this question should be pretty simple because it's kind of like adding on to what we're already talking about. So he's asking about, so if he's throwing things into Catapult, Wordsmith, and he's filled in subject matter, this is Tim. What he's running into is a lot of categories have had these removed from the back end. So his question is, are they still indexing, but is it just that they're no longer displaying it in the back end?
He's had categories where something's been removed from the back end from subject.
So where the subject matter is no longer being showed. A lot of categories have had these removed from the back end, subject matter fields.
Correct. I have categories where brands and niches that I've been in for quite some time where it doesn't have subject matter in the new flat file. One of the ways to see what Amazon's doing is if you use flat files, which is a whole nother topic I don't want to get into today, but if you go into your add product, if you're adding product by doing it with the in the Seller Central back office, that's fine. But whenever you add bulk product, if you're adding 20, 30, 40, 50 at a time, you're probably using flat files. The flat files are a great way to see the way Amazon's thinking, because if you go into the flat file and download the template, you guys could refer to the Amazon tutorials for this. But if you go into the add a product section and you look at the flat files that Amazon's using, if they eliminate a category on their flat file, which means they're not allowing you to upload it anymore, that tells you something. And in certain categories, for whatever reason, they've done that. They've removed subject. It's not on the spreadsheet anymore. So you can't even fill it out if you wanted to. It's just gone.
Yeah. So if that is the case in yours and in your category, then just don't include it inside of Wordsmith. Think with getting those words into your bullets
Or
and
search them.
Yeah, or
the backend search term. So for instance, like Mark and I were just saying, for subject matter, if kitchen and dining, that's the subject, instead of putting it in subject matter, put it in search terms. Amazon will find it. They'll know exactly what you mean.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, we have a ton more questions. So we're going to just carry on, guys. What we're going to do, again, we will then, if we consider that we have time at the end, we'll hit a bunch of questions. But otherwise, I think we should just do our Q&A. I think
Good.
We'll save a number of these because some of these are very self-contained questions anyways.
Yep. Yeah.
So yeah, so then why don't we just keep rolling?
Yeah, I think we're basically towards the end anyway. We've kind of wrapped the main concept of it. In the overview, basically, you're going to want to make sure those keywords are being tracked. So now that I have these keywords being tracked, I'm going to see where I rank for them. You want to give those, a good 7 days. Or at least 4 days to kind of see where you're ranking on them before you decide what to do with them. So when you're going to be creating your Amazon ads, you want to look at the metrics inside of Keyword Tracker. So if you have a brand new product and you just launched it, 3 days ago, you want to have had all this research done and put this stuff into Keyword Tracker. And then 3 days, which would be today, you can see, okay, where are you actually ranking on that? And then decide, okay, does it make sense to go after some of these long tail ones? Or are you getting some good organic ranking for something way up here? You can kind of decide what you want to do with your advertising based off of what you're seeing in a Keyword Tracker system. So that's the main point of the second point of the trifecta, is analyzing where you're actually showing up and then basing your advertising efforts off of that.
And so I know we went on a segue and we answered some questions here, Curtis, but this was relatively going to be a short session, but it is critical. So just to run through some of the takeaways to make sure everybody's in sync with us, and playing off what Mark just said, you're going to find your best competitors. You want to make sure you guys understand that. We covered that already. Make sure there's no questions on that. Second, you're going to set up your reverse ASIN and you're going to extract the best keywords and all of the keywords that all the competitors are ranking for, because that's what you want to rank for. You're then going to take those and put them in the tracker, the way Mark went over, the way we've designed and showed you the SOP of how to do that. So now you've got your ASINs in a tracker, you got the keywords in the tracker, and now after you let them marinate, so to speak, for a few days, you're now looking at all of the results. Once you get there, what today's topic was about is how do you then determine where to go? And you could see by just finding the best keywords and putting them in the title.
Yep.
Within a few days, they're already ranking. The title, the product is ranking better. The keywords that are in the tracker moved from page 3 and 4 to page 1 just by changing the position of the words in the title. So a point and a good takeaway from this is, if you're going to do any kind of giveaways, you're going to do any kind of promotions besides pay-per-click, the word you're promoting or the phrase you're promoting, you always want it at the front of the title. And yes, you can change your title and rotate keywords, not often because it's traumatic, but over time. So once you've optimized fully, once you have your best keywords in the title, then search terms and bullets, and you've built out and optimized, you're now ready for the next session, which is going to be building out your pay-per-click and completing the trifecta. But for now, you should be analyzing all of your keywords, and you should be examining which are the best scoring keywords to have in your title, your bullets, and the back-end search terms. And then you should already be eyeballing, okay, what are the long tail that you want to start setting up for aggressive ranking? Now, keep in mind, with the long tail keywords, they're probably going to have all of the words just in different order and what have you that the earlier keywords have and the better ranking keywords have. So if the better ranking keywords are in the title and bullets and back end, you're good to go. The reason for pulling out the higher, less competitive keywords is those will get prepared for your keyword ranking to drive rank for the product. And hopefully everybody understands that. We'll be addressing that in the next session of how to take those and how to start designing and setting up your pay-per-click campaigns.
Okay, awesome. So we can wrap here. We only have 4 questions. We want to just take them?
Yeah, well, let's see what they are. I think if they're relatively, yeah, if there's only 4, why don't we cut it at those 4?
Okay, perfect. Good. No one else ask any more questions. We're not going to accept them.
No, you can ask questions, and
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we'll take them up in the Q&A.
Yeah, and we'll do a Q&A session. Obviously, we've taken a chunk of the questions we would normally get. So if we have a chunk more, we'll do that. Otherwise, we'll consider this it. This one might be a partial question, so I'm going to ask it first. So if we need to follow up a little bit more info, how about naming brands where the product is compatible? Does that need more info?
When you say name a brand, don't ever name a brand or use a brand in your back end or title. That's a breach of Amazon's terms of service, and you'll get suppressed and or in trouble for that. Now, you could bid in pay-per-click on a brand, and you can definitely use brands.
Yep.
For instance, in target marketing, you're targeting ASINs, you're targeting brands, and by all means, you could target brands both in keywords and in their ASINs and product targeting. But don't ever mention another brand. Try not to do it by accident, but do not mention other brands in any of your listing at all.
Yeah, what you'll find is if you do that, You might get away with it for a little bit, but Amazon will catch you, and what they'll do is they'll de-index you. So you'll no longer be able to be found for probably all or most of the search terms in your search term field and the title. You'll see that your organic ranking will just disappear
It's
for
a big
of
taboo.
keywords.
Yeah, you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And I'm just making sure that that's answering his question. But okay, good. So next one, how many characters should a title have to get indexed easily?
So different categories have different lengths of how many characters you can include in them. I think some like clothing and maybe jewelry or some others, they have like 80 characters. Most categories have 200 characters. So you can get indexed for all 200. So you want to basically fill up as much of the 200 as possible. So here you can see on my one, I did it to 141. That's kind of what I felt comfortable with. But you can fill it all the way up to the 200 mark and get indexed for all those keywords. The key point that Rob talked about earlier is that little colon. If you put that after the 5th word, you're going to get additional SEO from Google, or your URL is basically going to be giving you that better indexing. So yeah, all 200 is definitely smart, and definitely smart to do that. The same thing with the search terms field down here, get in, all 200. This one, I think you have 250 on the search terms field. So all of them.
However, one caveat, like Mark mentioned, there are some, every category is run as a different executive team at Amazon. They all have, for whatever reason they decide, limits, and some could be less than 200. So I would advise that it's probably 200, but jewelry, as we know, and clothing are not. But I would advise everybody check the limit, the character, which you look in Amazon, and there's plenty of tutorials in Amazon. You could search in Sell Central for that. Yep. You should know the character limit for your category.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So then this one probably is a short question. Would adding the subject matter fields in Wordsmith accomplish the same thing as the flat file?
And adding, when you
yes.
say in Wordsmith.
So in here, and this is Wordsmith here. So yes, once you've done all
the main bucket.
Yeah. Once you've done all your optimization of the listing in here, we basically are uploading when you export this to Amazon. This is basically uploading a flat file through the API to Seller Central. So it takes the same amount of time, 15 minutes. Your title will be updated. So yeah, so there's a lot of nice little features about this. Is where, like, as an example, if I go to load saved here, I have a bunch of drafts. So this is my previous version, the 26th, and then I did the updated version on the 27th. So I can see how things are going. As an example, if, let's say, 7 days from now or 10 days from now, my rankings start to plummet and I'm just doing horrible and my sales are going horrible, I go, wait a minute, that change that I made, not good. So I have my earlier saved version here. I can go back to it, upload my old version, and figure out what I did wrong in my analysis and fix the keywords appropriately. So, but yeah, this is basically uploading a flat file to Seller Central, and any points that, let's say you don't have subject matter in your flat file or in your category, it will just not go through.
But if they were put in the main bucket, they'll use the words, and that's what's critical. So the answer is yes, it will include it. Yes, use the words, because the words are important. Certainly, think of the logic. Amazon thought it was important enough to name the category after it.
Right.
So for kitchen and dining, your subject matter is kitchen and dining. So if you have a product like the tumblers, like the plastic tumblers, yeah, a great word would be kitchen and dining.
Right. And if you don't have subject matter field, you can put that, in one of your bullets or something like that. So you make sure you're getting that SEO point. But there you go.
Okay, good. So then we have one that I'll answer really quick. What was the first Q&A? It was the first Q&A session recorded. Yes. So what you should do is just go to YouTube, type in managedbystats.com, or I guess Managed by Stats, and you'll see in the list of all our videos, part 1 Q&A is there. It might even be the main video we have on the page. So it's up there no matter what. You'll also see it. We'll send that link out again. If I have time, I'll throw it in the chat for everyone. Okay, but we have next question, which is for our Joseph. Okay, I have a weird dilemma. One of the main keywords for my product is a restricted word, CBD oil. However, I cannot use CBD in the listing copy, and I'm not indexing for it by having it in the back-end search terms. I can run sponsored ads to it no problem. In fact, I convert on it amazingly, but my organic ranking is non-existent. So how do I get indexed for a restricted word like this?
You're not going to be able to. Amazon their legal team is very stringent on that. You know, I've had products where we have a leaf in one of our main images, or I think in our secondary image that resembles the CBD leaf, but it isn't. It's a different leaf, and we've gotten flagged for being CBD and having CBD in our listing or whatever.
Wasn't it like aloe vera or something?
Yeah. So they're very stringent on it. They also have a very stupid but smart, robotic system that checks for that kind of stuff as well. So you're not going to be able to get that kind of organic rank for it. Amazon's not going to let you. It's just a restricted area that they're not going to let you get that organic thing for. But obviously, yeah, ads and whatnot makes sense.
Right. But however, if he's ranking really well for it, then just be thrilled and happy that you're ranking so well for it in pay-per-click. And what I would do is just keep running those ads. Just don't stop. And you could run, what I would do is a little bit advanced technique, but I think this is one of the last questions. So
yeah, we have only one more after this.
So what I would do is I would create a waterfall campaign. And the way you do that is take all CBD related terms and put them in a campaign and bid a little bit higher, maybe 50% higher than you normally would bid, and put a budget on it. So you may have that campaign at 50% higher than you normally would bid, and put whatever acceptable budget you're willing to spend for the month. When the budget is used up, it'll drop to the second campaign, because that budget's used up, it won't use it anymore, right? It'll then go to the second campaign where the other CBD keywords are. Now they are identical keywords. They will compete with each other, but Amazon's going to take the higher bid. So this way you could always stay in the game, since you can't get there organically. With pay-per-click, you could be super aggressive and you could say, okay, I'll spend $300, $400 a month on my more advanced, higher bids to keep the CBD name for my product out there all the time. So I'm always ranking for CBD. And then after that's used up, it'll drop down to the next level where you'll be more competitive. You may not get every single click. Your competitors may kick in, but this way you start dominating that CBD more than the others. And that should really anchor that for your product, maybe even more so than you're doing now.
Okay, awesome. Good. So then let's hit the last question. Truly last question.
I thought the other was the last.
Yeah, I know. I'm very generous when it comes to the last question. This is the last question though. Okay, last question, Joel. Should and this might actually be something along what Mark was talking about earlier. Should I have my brand name first in the title and then my main keywords next? I haven't included my brand name first.
Yeah, so that's a good question.
In terms of service versus practicality.
Yeah. So Amazon wants you to put your brand name first. That's what they say in their TOS. That's what they would like everyone to be doing. As you can see in my example, I put it last. If you are Nike, then put it first. If your brand is not well known like that, you're wasting a word of those first 5 words on a word that no one knows. So, and especially if you have a brand name like,
Mississippi running shoes.
Yeah. Like something that's 3 or 4 words long, you're going to be.
Or a lot of characters.
Yeah. So, yeah. So it's definitely a point that Amazon would like you to do. Thankfully, they're not 1,000% enforcing it, and it doesn't actually hurt anything to put it at the end. So I put it at the end still.
Okay, awesome. So then the only other thing that I would say that we should really kind of mention on this is that because one person asked this, oh, Joel says, thank you very much. That was a perfect answer. Okay, good. So the last point is that obviously the reason we're doing these trainings, these Q&As, is to give you a better understanding also of what we do as PPC Logic.
That's right.
So it's so funny. We went the whole first part of the trifecta and didn't even mention PPC Logic other than what's on their shirts over there. But
well, remember, we were building up to pay-per-click.
That's right.
Because without the right analysis and the first two parts of the trifecta, you can't approach pay-per-click.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
The only PPC that we threw out there was the answer previously on the waterfall.
Yes, exactly.
And that's an example of some of the techniques that we do for a lot of our clients, and that and many more that we do when we're managing the pay-per-click accounts for people.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We didn't want these to feel pitchy in any way, shape, or form. So, but if this is an area where, yeah, you're learning a lot, but especially when we get into the PPC section, where you're feeling, okay, this is more maybe than I want to bite into at the moment, or whatever it is that you're running into, check out ppclogic.com. We're happy to kind of go over some of these things on a call with you to see if this is something that's a fit for you. If it's not, then great. Take advantage of all this training. Feel free to hit us with all the questions you have. Anything else you guys want to add to that?
We didn't really push heavy with that because, again, we want to give a lot of content. But if anybody does have an interest, they can go to PPC Logic or write to customer support. And anybody that has that's more than just a beginner, if you've gotten into this, and hopefully our content can help beginners quite a bit. But if you're at the level of, let's say, anywhere from 20,000 in gross revenue a month, 20,000 in sales plus, and you want to really take it to the next level, those are the players that would be candidates for PPC Logic, where we take over the accounts and manage the pay-per-click from aggressive ranking techniques to ranking for keywords, enhancing the organic, and helping them build beyond the 20,000 revenue.
Awesome. Well, then do this. What are kind of some of the top reasons someone would go with PPC Logic? Again, we'll try and keep this under like a minute or two so we don't dominate any kind of training, but what are a couple of the key bullet points, differentiators?
I would think the kind of the key points that we've seen is what we're doing is not just related to PPC, right? We built PPC Logic on top of Managed by Stats so that you can actually see, we can actually see as managers, are the things that we're doing resulting in better ranking and more profits. Whereas other software or agencies, they can't see your back end, cost of goods. They can't see your actual profits at the end of the day, and they can't see your ranking on these keywords. So we tie it in to be able to see, are we actually moving your business to be more profitable, to have more money, and to get you into higher revenue tiers. And so that's kind of the key point that we kind of try to concentrate on. We have a system that we built that is very manageable, and we can build it out to exactly to the specs of what you want to do for your product. So if you have 100 products and some of them are doing great, some of them are doing bad, we're not going to just, we can tailor all the efforts to be exactly to what you want to get for each of those ASINs. And again, we're just looking at how do we actually get you more exposure, more ranking, and get you more profits.
The only thing I'd add to that is we are hands-on management, but we use some very sophisticated software to handle the rote everyday techniques and SOPs that we teach. And we have greater mathematical efficiency and proficiency than in a human can because of our software. So we're able to maximize the bidding and the bidding strategies. And then we build out campaigns to really move both in product targeting and keyword targeting to build ranking and organic sales. And this software all emanated out of us trying to build better systems for ourselves. And from that, because we were challenged and realized that on our own, we just couldn't get it any better without software and without the techniques that we implement now. So that's how this all came about. So we already know as sellers that we couldn't get to the levels that we got to without building this software. And then we finally did decide that it was time for prime time, and we could roll it out and make it available to our clients. So again, we didn't just build it to sell it. It was actually the other way around. We built it for ourselves. And because we built it, we were able to enhance our accounts many times fold as far as revenue, organic sales, et cetera. So there's a lot of benefits in able to build efficient campaigns, build better campaigns than you can do on your own, and get it to a level where we believe we'll make clients that much more money that in essence we pay for ourselves. And that's our goal, that within 90 days, we'll increase any account to where our fees become non-existent because of the increases in revenue. So in essence, they're really getting all of the talent and software and proprietary AI software that we incorporate to build and grow their ranking.
Awesome. Okay, good. Well, then I would say that that's a good wrap, because there's obviously a thousand other reasons, be it the pricing that we have that's different, all these different other points that make PPC Logic great.
Right.
But again, we're not trying to pitch this to all you guys. So let's wrap this bad boy up. I would say that we, especially like the amount of people that are writing in here, just saying the session was beneficial, and I learned key information today to what Joel was saying earlier, the answers to the questions that we gave, lots of value given there. So again,
one other thing, Curtis, is that, and we generally mean it, I really hope that you guys will follow along. And over the many, many years, I've taken classes, spent a lot of money on my knowledge and growing in the industry over the last decade. And I always felt that, I'll just go to the recording and I'll watch it later because I'm too busy during the day. But wow, there's such a difference when you participate, when you're active and you ask questions. And I really hope you guys will take advantage of this. Of course, the replays are always there, so you can go back and check. And it's great to have. But if you guys will follow along and really apply what we're saying, there are a lot of little gems that we're trying to give you. It's total open, fully transparent, telling you everything that we do for ourselves. But everything we discussed today and in the previous session, these will help you rank better. And then we'll be wrapping it up in the final session with, okay, now how do you apply this in pay-per-click? But we're hoping, and I mean this sincerely, that you'll actually try this so that you'll see if you have questions. You're never going to know, did you really learn it all, or are you really grasping it all, unless you actually try to apply it. And that's where you're going to say, oh, wait a second. When you went to do it, you realized, wait a minute, did they mean this or that? And that's when you come back with questions where we can really help fine tune it, so you walk away with really being able to enhance your campaigns. And again, just like we showed you live, if you watch both sessions, how we took a title, rebuilt it, using the techniques we're talking about, the title's already ranking better, which means it's going to get more sales in the coming month than it ever had before, and keep growing. And that's hopefully what you guys will do for your own accounts.
Awesome. Okay, great. So then with that, we are at the end of part 2 of our ranking bootcamp. We hope you guys really, really enjoyed that. Definitely Thursday, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we will have part 3 of this ranking bootcamp, where we will dive in pretty hot and heavy on the PPC side. And there's some pretty awesome stuff that we're going to cover there. So with that, we are going to wrap this guy up. Again, we'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.